welcome to Genius Cafe. This is a Genius Talk, and my name is Francesca. I'm an intern right now from the States, but I just wanted to introduce Ari and allow her to talk about a really confusing topic. So,
did you say confusing topic? It is. That's true. Welcome, everyone. My name is Ari Kardos, and today we're going to talk about what in the world is ethical non-monogamy. So you might have heard of stuff in the news, seen it on pop culture. It's on a bunch of TV shows. It's been in the New York Times. People are referencing it in movies all over the place these days, especially in the U.S. And it's starting to show up in other cultures around the world, too, in mainstream stuff. Now, I'm going to dive into what it is in just a few minutes, but let's get rolling. Let me start with telling you a little bit about who I am, so that you know why I'm talking about this stuff. So in my previous life, I was a leadership development professional working in the tech industries, mostly at Amazon and Cisco. Before that, I got my MBA in global leadership from the world's #1 international business school in the world. I'm the author of the best-selling book, Relationship Agreements. If you haven't read it, I encourage you to check it out. It's pretty cool. And my personal love story is featured in the book Chicken Soup for the Soul, The Miracle of Love, along with this handsome man over here, my husband. And it comes out today, actually, which is really, really awesome. I'm one of the most highly referred relationship coaches globally, and I work with clients across 6 continents, ranging from high-tech professionals to world-class champion athletes and doctors and lawyers, and I work a lot with folks in the tech industry. And my focus is really on empowering people in their relationships to get more connected, whether that's through dialogue or through some really amazing tools that I've been using with my clients. And you know what? It completely eradicates fighting, and it brings people closer together, and there's deeper intimacy, so we can talk about that sometime if you're interested. But let's dive into the subject for today. So, what is ethical non-monogamy? So I'm going to throw it out to the crowd, those who are here. If anybody has any idea what it is, or what you think it might be, or whatever. Or if you are in an open relationship and you want to disclose that, feel free to, but you are not being forced if you are choosing that lifestyle. Just shout something at me. Yeah. You could just be like, I don't know. Yeah, it's a... What's that? What was it? What is it? What is it? Or what's your current thought about it?
I think Jennifer wants to say something. I think it's when partners have... they make some kind of decision together, can look very different, but that they are in some way open to expressing love and intimacy with other people, and that can mean a whole lot of different things. That
was beautiful. I'm going to try to say it all again. So Jennifer just said she thinks it's when couples make a decision together to be with other people and express love and intimacy and other things, however they choose. Cool. All right. So I'm going to give you a quick... Oh, before I launch into that, I moved the slides around last night. So what do we think these kinds of relationships can actually provide? There's several things, but some of the things I hear often, the first one I get when people are asking, why would I choose to be in an open relationship? Usually it's because they think there's going to be more sex. There could be. There definitely could be. There could also be less pressure on the partner. So in the traditional form of monogamy, and let me be really clear here, I don't think that one form of any relationship is better than another. So monogamy is awesome. Woo! Open relationships are awesome. Woo! Being single is awesome. Woo! And everything in between. So today we're just talking about ethical non-monogamy specifically. So in ethical non-monogamy, people get to choose whatever structure they want, really, and we're going to break it down in a little bit. But in monogamy, there's a lot of pressure, since there are only 2 people, there's a lot of pressure on the partner to be everything, to be all in one, to be the super mom, the super wife, the super person in bed, the super everything. But if you choose an open relationship, you might have a little less pressure because you can spread it out. Maybe you don't like eating chocolate cake, but your girlfriend really does. And so you don't have to worry about it because they're taking care of that part. People often think it can keep your current sex life a little bit more spicy, and it certainly can. It depends on what you're setting up. Some people think that this is the way to fix a relationship that has gone stale. So I've heard many people say, oh yeah, well, we've been together for like 17 years, and so we're deciding to try opening up our relationship and seeing somebody else to fix the rut that we're in. I'm not saying that this works. Here's what I do know. It can really lead to more connection and more exploration. There can be a lot more autonomy, a lot more sexual expression, a lot more freedom that comes up. And it can help you keep a romantic mindset. Romantic meaning it helps you stay tuned into the person that you want to be connected with. It helps you see them with fresh eyes. And it can give you a lot of more support and flexibility, including financial flexibility, depending on how you set things up. You cannot, this is a pretty hard cannot, you cannot navigate ethical non-monogamy well without having really amazing communication skills. So people who get involved in this lifestyle, I often say one of the first things we're going to really look at is how are you guys communicating? How are you connecting? Because that's going to be a huge predictor of the success or failure of this relationship. And there's definitely greater self-awareness that comes through being in these types of open relationships because you have to know yourself and present yourself and what you want to multiple people involved. And I'm going to pause right there and do a quick tour of different types of ethical non-monogamy before we continue on with the list of what else it can provide. So there's tons of different types. I'm going to grab this cute little script that my friend made for me. There's tons of different types of open, ethical monogamous relationships. We're going to think of ethical non-monogamy as an umbrella term. And underneath that, there are all sorts of different paths you can take. It's kind of like a choose your own adventure. Now, I'm going to walk you through a map of different paths you might choose to take and a little overview of each one. And you get to decide if any of these sound really cool to you or not. And you don't have to tell me. So the first one, the really big one, really big term is open relationships. Oftentimes, people think that this is, I'll give you the little catchphrase he gave me. It says, we can have sex with other people as long as it's just sex, not love. This is a common phrase that we hear, that I hear often. Okay, so I'm going to be in an open relationship, which means that I can be physically connected to someone else, but not emotionally. The next one is cheating. This is not ethical. This is not trying out other people, going on dates and getting to know other folks. But there's usually not a rule that you have to disclose to your blind date at dinner that you're also going on a blind date tomorrow night or who you went out with last night. It's kind of this unspoken, I'm dating. I'm not committed to anybody. I'm dating. And it's just okay. That phrase could be, I never specifically said we weren't exclusive, never said we were either. Another form is the 100-mile rule. This is the idea that you are exclusive with your partner unless you're on the road, unless you're traveling. So it might be, yeah, we've been married for 30 years. We are in our community. We are like solid, and we are only together. But when he goes to his conference in Las Vegas, it's okay with me if he's with somebody else. As long as it's out of our community, as long as he's on the road, that's our agreement. So the phrase there is, we're monogamous, except when he's on the road. Then there's commerce. Commerce is big globally. This is when you use relationships, you can purchase physical intimacy from professionals to help with the relationship or contribute in some way to your own coupled relationship. So the line may be, we hire a partner for threesomes. Okay. The don't ask, don't tell. Don't ask, don't tell is this idea that it's okay for you to be with somebody else. We're in a relationship. You can be with anybody else. That's fine. I just don't want to know about it. So you do your thing, and I'm going to do my thing, and it's okay, but we're not going to actually talk about it. And a lot of times they don't. There isn't this much more of an acknowledgement beyond that, but it can change. So the line here is, don't tell me about it, don't bring him home, and don't fall in love. Next one is BDSM play and DS, non-monogamy. This is a whole talk in another direction. DS, let me quickly tell you what that is. BDSM, oh wow, okay. BDSM I'll define real quick. Bondage, discipline, sadism, and masochism. It's the idea of using power play and receiving or giving sensation to form some sort of connection and have an experience, a shared experience. DS, capital D is dominance and lower S is submission. And it's whether people who are dominant are going to be giving the sensation, people who are in the submissive role are choosing to receive the sensation, and there is this power exchange, but people get to make up their minds of what they want, and they set negotiations, and there's protocol and all sorts of stuff. If you're interested in learning more about that world, I'm happy to talk about it, but it is its own thing, and within BDSM, you can choose to have a monogamous relationship or a non-monogamous relationship. And maybe you say, well, I'm monogamous with my partner, except for when I'm with my dom. And that's okay, because that's what we have agreed to. Because my partner isn't into kink or isn't into BDSM, and that's how we worked it out. So the line here would be, my husband isn't into BDSM, so I found another partner who is. And that came out sounding sassier than I meant. It really can be super loving. Okay. Swinging. This one is more heard of, more common. I think it's a bit more out there. I went to Las Vegas a couple of years ago, and I was just curious to learn about the different cultures around sexuality and relationships. And I ended up on Yelp. If you've never been on Yelp, it's a lot like any review site where you, like Zomato here, you can find a restaurant that you want. So I'm on Yelp, and I finished finding our dinner reservation, and I thought, I wonder if I can find a swing dancing club. I'm going to go swing dancing. I'm a dancer. So I put in swing, and that's all I put in, and pushed enter, and I ended up finding swing clubs for swingers. I was like, no way. They have reviews and like phone numbers, and like in many other places in the world, this type of thing is not something you can find easily. You have to know the right people. It's like, okay, I'm going to call this number. So I call the phone number, and this little old lady picks up the phone, and I'm like, is this the swinger club? She's like, yeah. Do you want to come over tonight? I was like, yes. It's like, do I need to wear something fancy? She's like, no, just come on over. It's at our house. I'm like, oh, okay. So I went to this lady's house. She's 82. Her husband is 87. They've been running a swinger club out of their house that was built in the 70s since the 70s every night. And all these people are showing up, and they're having a blast. And they're like, it was just so connected. I'm like, you can find this on Yelp? Amazing. So swingers, these are people who are coupled, usually, and they choose to share their partner with someone else, and they usually swap. So, and it is almost always a physical interaction, and that's it. And then they go back to their partners. They go home for the night with their husbands and their wives. This started and it's been going on for a while, but they say the swinging began with key parties. Does anybody know what a key party is? A key party, do you want to tell them, or do you want me to tell them? Okay. A key party was back during World War II, actually. The pilots, Air Force pilots, they say people wanted to make sure that there was camaraderie and that their wives would be taken care of in a time of war when they weren't sure if they were coming home. And one of the ways they formed bonds and connection was to build community through kind of like a tribe of men who would support the women. And one of the things they did was they created key parties. And this was an opportunity for everybody to put their car keys in a bowl, and the women to choose, the women to go up and choose a set of keys, And whoever's keys those were, that's who they were going home with that evening. And there was a sense of everybody's got each other. Whether you come home or not, we've got you. We're your community. We're your people. And it was in most cases consensual. I haven't heard very many reports of it not being consensual. So interesting history. So the line there might be, ooh, a key party. People still do this for fun nowadays too, but it's a little different usually. The next one is casual sex. So casual sex is, when you like the hookups, the one-night stands, I'm not looking for a committed relationship. I just want to see what's out there. This is usually something more around, here's a good line, I'm too busy for a relationship. That's cool. Or maybe you just don't want a relationship. Maybe you just enjoy being single. And then finally, the last one I'm going to talk about is event sex. Event sex. Has anybody ever heard of Burning Man? Yeah, I got some people who know about it. Burning Man, if you don't know, is a really huge festival that takes place in the U.S. once a year. And 70,000 plus people descend upon this open desert, and they have an amazing week of celebration and art and music and all sorts of stuff. And now there are parties all around the world that do other versions of this. Anyways, Burning Man is also one of the most notorious places for relationships to experiment or go awry or begin or go deeper. And so event sex may be something like, we are monogamous unless we go to Burning Man. Make sense? So there's a map. There's your map of all the different types of ethical non-monogamy that you might be curious about. And I need to be really clear that these are just some of the bigger chunks. These are the titles and help you put ideas in your head of what you might want to fall into. But the thing is that non-monogamy, ethical non-monogamy, is really a choose-your-own-adventure. One of the things that I really appreciate about it is that people who choose ethical non-monogamy in general, especially with polyamory, choose to wipe the slate clean of rules. We're all taught different rules of what a relationship should be. So, maybe growing up, your church or your religious group or your parents or your school or your social media, all these things told you what you should do, what a relationship is. If you are looking at somebody, if you're dating your high school boyfriend and you look at somebody else with lustful eyes, that could be considered cheating in some places. Whereas in other places, it might be totally okay to make out with them and that's it. So the idea of ethical non-monogamy is the idea that you get to choose your own adventure. What would it mean if you just got rid of the rules and you made it whatever you want it to be, whatever you and your partner want it to be, and you as consenting adults got to do that? Pretty cool. A lot of possible freedoms. Wow, that just got really crazy. We'll move on. So I'm going to try to simplify this a little bit more. There are three main types of ethical non-monogamy. If you want a great resource, there's a woman named Kathy Labriola. She has written so many amazing things. We're going to use two of her resources tonight. One of them is from the book Love and Abundance, and the other one is I'm going to give you a handout where it's from her Jealousy Workbook. You'll actually get to take home a little quiz and share it with your whoever, your dog, your neighbor, your mom, whoever. Okay, so there are three different types, three different basic models. The first one is the primary and secondary model. Primary meaning, so the primary and secondary model means that you are choosing one person to be your primary, your number one. So this might be, Jamin is my primary. Hypothetical situation. I'm going to make something up right now. So Jamin is my primary. And then I'm going to choose a secondary. So let's say I want to be with Lisa also, but Jamin's going to get the majority of my time and attention and finances and all that. But Lisa and I have something on the side, and that's great because that's what we agreed that we want. Okay? So that would be she's my secondary, he's my primary. Does that make sense? It usually means that the primary gets more of the attention, more of the energy, more of the finances, more of the whatever. All of that goes into his role as the primary. Decision rights, yeah. Usually people who choose this structure oftentimes have kids together. So that would be like that. We're primary because we have to be involved in kids' lives daily. You don't have to, but this is one common thing. The second one is the multiple primary partners model. This means that I don't think it's okay for me to make Lisa any less than, or give her any less than Jamin. So instead, I'm going to have both of them be my primary. They're both equal. They both have equal say, and we all make decisions together. This is our primary. They're both my primary partners. Does that make sense? Okay. Within this, there are two different versions. There's the closed model. Closed meaning, I'm going to keep this one going. Are you okay with this? I should have asked you first. So, closed model would mean that Jamin, Lisa, and I are exclusive to each other. We can decide what exclusive means, but usually it means sexually exclusive. We're not going to involve anybody else. Nobody else is coming in. The second one is the open model, where we are all together. They're both my primaries, but let's say Lisa really wants to date that dude over there. So she's going to go date that dude. And Jamin wants to date that dude over there. So Jamin's going to date that dude. It's open. They can bring other partners in. We decide how it works for us. But there are two models, the open and the closed. Make sense? Yeah.
So you have two primaries, but they're also each other's. So he has two primary and she has two primary?
Usually. But again, it's a choose your own adventure. So maybe Jamin really loves, he loves me, and we're partnered, we're primary, but then his other great love is skiing. And he's going to spend most of his time developing his hobby and his passion, and he's going to be out in the slopes and doesn't really want to give anything else to another relationship, including to Lisa. Or we could all be equals, we could all be seeing each other. Totally up to you. Yeah. There's no rules. These are just general guidelines. Thank you for that question. Any other questions before I move on? Okay. Okay. I think... Yep, I'll just read this out loud. Outside of their relationship. So, again, it's the idea that no one is going to trump me. If I'm your primary, no one's going to kick me out of my spot. Okay? So it's okay for you to go date. It's okay for you to have fun. It's okay for you maybe even to fall in love, but they cannot risk taking me out of my position as your wife, as your girlfriend, as, you know, as the person who lives in this house and controls the kitchen or whatever that might be. Yeah.
But that's just like saying, but there are risks that are involved, right?
There are always risks. There are risks with monogamy too. Marriages are definitely not guaranteed. But yeah, there are always risks. And people oftentimes, when they start out trying to open their relationship, if they have a monogamous relationship, they'll try opening their relationship, and the rule is, but don't fall in love. And without... No, just from my experience of talking with people and working with clients, I have not seen that work out very well in the long run. It can often work in the short run. It's really hard to keep that going because we're human and we have big hearts and we want to love and want to be connected to people. And loving another person doesn't have to be scary and doesn't have to mean the end of something else. You know, it's like when parents have children, they can have 4 children and still love all of them, right? And I think that sometimes our idea in our mind is that we can only be with one person. And for some people, this is totally true and valid. And if this is you, then honor that and really be invested in your committed partnership. But if it's not you and you are able to and want to and find it easier and healthier to be in multiple relationships, then by all means, learn to expand your heart and love in multiple ways and honor and respect everybody's commitments. Does that make sense? Yeah. And there's always risk. Okay, the multiple primary partners relationship model with 2 variations. Apparently I didn't know that I had slides on these too. Okay, so the closed model, another name is called polyfidelity. Fidelity meaning being together with union and trust and pretty much monogamous. But you're going to be polymonogamous, polyfidelis, which means that there's this group arrangement. I gave the example of Lisa and Jamin and I. It's a group arrangement. We as consenting adults have all decided to make this work, and we are sexually exclusive within this group, unless we change to the open model, in which case we can go be with other people. The open model, where any and all relationships have the potential of becoming primary. In the multiple non-primary partners model, all relationships may be casual or secondary, and there's generally no primary relationship. So sometimes there just aren't any primary relationships. Sometimes it's just we all love each other, we all date each other, everybody's equal. I don't need a label. I don't need a title of being a primary. I don't need a label or a title of being a secondary. We just love each other. Make sense? So this is your general map. 3 different styles all fall within this map, except for the solo polyamory or dating around, where you get to be with folks on your own accord, and you're not in a committed partnership, and cheating, which is not ethical. Were there any questions about any of these different forms that were confusing before we move on? Feeling good? Feeling good? All right. So let's go back to what do we think these kinds of relationships can provide? We said more sex. Definitely can. Sometimes it involves no sex. Maybe I am... I'm going to keep using you guys. This is just too easy. Okay, so maybe I'm in this partnership with Jamin and with Lisa, but you know what? I am sexually satisfied with Jamin, but I am emotionally, he's on the road all the time, and I really just want a loving companion that I'm not sexual with, but that I am in love with in so many other ways that I can find with Lisa. And that's our thing. It can put far less pressure on a partner. So instead of Jamin having to be so worried that I have no companion while he's traveling and working, there's less pressure. He just knows that Lisa's got me. Pretty cool. It can help keep... Oh, yeah.
What's the difference between that and having a really close friend?
Yeah. It's your definition. I mean, it's what you want to make it, too. And maybe it means that there's no penetrative sex. But maybe it means it's okay for her and I to cuddle and make out. Does that make sense? Which you probably don't do with your friend. Probably don't. But again, if there are no rules and you create the rules, yeah. Again, people often think that this is going to fix a relationship that have gone stale. I have yet to see that work. It definitely provides more connection and a chance to explore different things in life. Gives you more autonomy, freedom, and sexual expression. You can definitely learn so much from other people. And it can keep the romantic mindset there. So if you are, if things are starting to... I'm going to talk about something in a moment. I'll tell you all about it. Hold that thought. Definitely more support. If you all want to live together or you all want to pay the bills together, that can be a huge win financially. To have 3, 4, 5, 6 adults all contributing to the house bills, all living together, you can get a big house for 6 adults paying together. Lots of different benefits. Communication and conflict resolution skills will come or your relationship will end. And there's definitely greater self-awareness. And it is a pretty sure way to end a relationship that was not meant to be. So like I said, people often enter this thinking they're going to fix their relationship if it's not going well, especially folks who would choose monogamy, and then they think they're going to fix it by adding somebody else. And you know what? If they weren't doing the hard work in their monogamous relationship to get connected, to handle a conflict, to really turn towards each other and build connection and intimacy, that when they add this other person, it will blow up in a ball of flames, almost always within the first year, based on my experience. So what could be some of the challenges? Anybody thinking that this sounds amazing and there could be nothing wrong with this? Any ideas? What could a challenge be? Time and resources. Heck yes. Communication. Yes. Any others? Jealousy. That's a big one. Yep. Increased conflicts, for sure. Dedication? Yeah, dedication. Oh, sorry, I thought you were saying something. All right, so here are a few. The other person might fall in love. This is always a risk. I mean, monogamy, the person could have fallen in love. There could be abandonment. There is potentially greater likelihood because you're creating more opportunities for this to happen. But at the same time, our divorce rate in the U.S. right now is 50%. So I would say I don't think it's actually creating more risk. I think it depends on the intention you set and the work you're doing to stay connected in monogamous or ethically non-monogamous relationships. You get an STI. STI is the official term that has replaced STD. These are not diseases, these are infections. So, you could get a sexually transmitted infection. This is true. You could get them from a lot of different places, but there is a greater risk in a lot of cases if you are choosing to be in some form of open relationship. Now, a couple pieces of good news. Number one, most STIs are really not a big deal. It's more of a social stigma, social pressure than a danger. There are some really dangerous ones out there, but there are ways to protect against it, and a lot of them actually have medications that will cure it or can keep it from becoming really deadly, which is awesome. So doing your homework and finding out what am I actually at risk by doing, what's the transmission, and how can I prevent it? I mean, there are people who have hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of sexual partners and have never gotten a disease or an infection. So with that being said, there's something that they're doing. There's some sort of education they have that's allowing them this lifestyle and this safety. The other really cool thing is that when people choose a relationship structure like polyamory, they often form communities of like-minded people who can support each other and who share this value or this lifestyle. So if you have a community, a lot of times it's more closed and everyone wants to protect their community. So the chances of a new disease just popping up is really rare. I mean, it has to come from the outside pretty much. And so everybody knows how to have these educated discussions. They know how to have what's called the safer sex talk. And they actually reduce their chances of sexually transmitted infection. And they have a lot more sex. So, kind of cool. The social pressure is so huge, and a lot of people are just afraid of what could happen. And some of the risks, some of that fear is really valid. What would happen to you socially if someone found out? What would happen at work if they found out? Do you work in a place that's culturally accepted? And if not, this might be something to consider before making a decision to be in this lifestyle or decide how much you want to keep hidden. And, family. Not all families going to understand this type of choice. So is it worth it? Is it worth the risk? Do you feel like this is authentically you and this is where you need to go? You and your partners need to go? What would the risks be? Maybe they aren't as great or as terrible as you think. Jealousy and other intense feelings. So I could do a 2-day workshop on jealousy alone. But let me share this really quick analogy, also by Kathy Labriola. So she considers, one second. She acquaints jealousy like a smoke alarm, a smoke detector, right? So you got the smoke detector in your house, and it is there for a purpose. It is there to keep you safe. And if there's a fire, you want that smoke alarm to be going off, and you want to get out of there. But if you burn a piece of toast in your kitchen, you do not want that thing going off. That's really annoying. Jealousy is an emotion that we often aren't taught how to deal with. It's a valid emotion, and we just need to calibrate it. Make sure our jealousy meter isn't going off every time we burn toast, but when is it actually a threat? When is there actually cause for concern with your partner? When is there reason enough in your life, in your gut, to not trust your partner? Or is this okay? It's just not talked about a lot. It's just not charted a lot. This is new for you, and you're learning how to handle this emotion. Just like when you're kids, learn how to deal with anger, sadness, grief. These are all really tough emotions, and open relationships will bring up a lot of hard emotions, including jealousy. NRE. Anybody know what NRE is? NRE is new relationship euphoria. This is something you probably have all experienced. This is that feeling of being Twitter-pated. It's when you get in a brand new relationship. It usually lasts for about 3 to 9 months, with an average of 6. And it's that chemical cocktail of oxytocin that's going through your body and telling you, oh my God, this person's amazing. They're the best person on this whole planet, and I want to be with them forever, and I'm going to make like 10,000 babies with them. That is NRE. And it fades, and all of a sudden one day you realize, oh my God, this person is so annoying. I can't believe they don't wash their coffee cup ever, and they leave their hair in the shower drain. And what did I ever see in this person? It doesn't go that extreme, but it could. That turns into mature relationship energy. It can. That's when you really get to the juicy, lifelong, heartfelt connection. So, NRE is a big thing, and it's a big challenge. Imagine if you're in an open relationship where you're not just experiencing this one time, but you could experience this like every few weeks. You might find somebody new and start dating somebody new. Imagine Jamie and I are in a committed partnership, and I go on a first date with somebody, and I totally am gaga for them. And then I come home and I'm like, oh my God, this person I went out with is amazing. And he's like, Or he could be really excited. Who knows? But it's, how is he going to handle this NRE that I'm going through? And who knows how often? And how will that impact us in our relationship? Lots of things to consider. Time management. More people means it takes more time. Google Calendar, such a helpful tool. But it's like having lots of kids. You got to get some people to soccer practice. You got to get some people to their ballet practice. And, there just isn't enough time for everybody all the time, let alone time for you. So how do you make sure that you're choosing the right number of partners for you and still taking care of yourself and taking care of them and everything else in your life? Time management is a really big deal. And agreement violation. So when people are in these open relationships, they make agreements. When you're in a monogamous relationship, you are making agreements. You're making agreements together. Some of them are spoken, some of them are unspoken. Some of them are just assumptions or learned patterns over time. But at some point in time, an agreement is going to be violated. And it can be more painful if it's an agreement that you've made while in an open relationship, because it can just feel like, just a little bit deeper, because with somebody else oftentimes. So maybe the agreement was, you can go, I'm trying to think of a good example right now. You can go on a date anywhere you want, except for our special restaurant, which is this place over here. You can go anywhere in Bali, but just not Genius Cafe, and that's our agreement. And then you didn't tell your new date, and they wanted to surprise you, and they take you to Genius Cafe. And it happened, and it broke. Your agreement was broken. You didn't mean to. They didn't mean to, but now it's broken. What are you going to do? How will you repair the damage? So, it happens. And there are really beautiful ways to navigate it and learn the art of forgiveness and move forward together. Incompatibility. What happens if you aren't compatible anymore? And this happens with monogamy too, but what's going to happen over time? And you just start realizing that these things aren't connecting the way they used to. So that was a quick little tour. And again, this is a choose your own adventure. You get to design it however you want. So I wanted to just pause for a moment and ask, is a non-monogamous relationship right for you? And you may not know, and that's great. This today was just to give you a high-level overview and get your brain thinking, and also give you more information about what some other people in the world have chosen. I'm going to give you a really cool handout, and you get to take it home with you. If you want, you get to do it here. If you have questions, glance it over. Thank you. This is also from Kathy Labriola's work. This is from the Jealousy Workbook. This is the second exercise. It's called Clarify Your Relationship Orientation. So you are actually going to take a little assessment to find out if you're more geared towards monogamy or non-monogamy. it's pretty cool. It's really fun. I'll let you take it home with you. If you have any questions, let me know. And with that, I'll ask what's next in your adventure and say if you have more questions, because this was just the tip of the iceberg on a very large iceberg. If you have more questions you want to ask, I am here to answer questions for a few minutes, and then I'm always available via email, especially this can be a taboo subject, and if you have questions and you want to get coffee sometime and just talk about it, let me know. It may be a long distance coffee because we head back to the USA in less than a week now. But thank you all so much for your time. My name is Ari Kardos. Hopefully tonight was interesting or enlightening or answered a few questions. And thank you all so much for coming. And with that, are there any questions? Any unanswered questions? Yeah. Here, let me give this to you. I'm pretty good at repeating and.
So I was just going to ask about NRE, the new relationship energy, because I think I've only been in relationships until that energy ends, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've never had a relationship last a year. Probably had, I don't know, 10 relationships or something. So I was going to wonder if you could just elaborate on that transition.
Yeah, sure. So this goes for any relationship structure you're in. When that Twitter-patedness starts to fade, it's really when you need to be focused on how do you keep the spark alive and how do you... So the next phase is mature relationship energy. So I'm going to bring more of the focus to connection. How do you build this connection very intentionally? Before, it was magical. Before, it was easy. Before, there was this flow and everything was new. There's this great study that was done that shows that people who are in NRE, certain parts of their brain light up. And they're just glowing all the time. But you can make the same parts of your brain light up if you both choose to do something that's new, exciting, and challenging. So we like to call it the nice date, where it's new, intriguing, challenging, and exciting. Nice, okay? So you're going to start choosing those. And you're also going to learn some really cool communication tools, because now the little things that were annoying, that were cute, are now becoming annoying. And the really important thing is to start being more curious than ever before. Because in the beginning, you were curious. You're like, who is this cool person? I want to hang out with them all the time. But then you start learning their patterns. And you're like, oh, I got this. I know who they are. It's been a year. I know who they are. And instead, I'm going to say, step back. Be curious. Who are they today? And start asking those types of questions. And be really open to hearing them. And if something triggers you, if they do this annoying habit, instead of getting mad, before you do that, be really curious and say, tell me about that. You do this thing, and I want to know why you do it. Have you always done that? Where did you get it from? Do you learn it from somebody? Usually, the thing that they do has a backstory. Maybe not even one that they've thought about in a long time. But maybe that was just so I'll give you an example. I dated this guy who was amazing, and he, at first, our relationship was so beautiful and so Twitter-pated and amazing, just great, and everything he did was perfect. And when we'd start to fall asleep, he would do this thing where he'd pat me on the back of my head. And at first I thought it was really cute. I'm like, that's so sweet. I'm going to sleep. He's doing this thing. I don't even know why he's doing it. And then I got to the point where I'm like, I'm going to effing kill him if he touches my head when I'm trying to sleep one more time. And before I went to violence, I asked him, I said, why in the world do you tap my head when I'm going to bed? Like, it's just so annoying. I tried not to say that part. I was like, why? Just tell me first. Why? And he said, that's what we do in India. That's how you put babies to sleep. You tap the back of their head. It helps with brain development. It helps them relax. It's a way to nurture someone and take care of them. Why wouldn't I do that? And I was like, huh. In my home, you tap the baby's bottom. I don't know if it helps with brain development, but that's what you do. and it was just this, oh. And now I could be annoyed still, but I could also have compassion. And I could say, that's really sweet. And I don't get that connection from it. Is there something else that you and I could create around a new ritual for us around going to sleep together that would feel connected for both of us? Right? So starting to really go in with deeper curiosity for the behind story helps allow that transition.
I'm just curious because I've never experienced something like that, like an open relationship, to know like how does it feel like, for example, you imagine you live with your partner and you're in an open relationship and then he's not coming home until really late, and like what's the thing you're thinking about, or what if he comes like really early and he obviously might have been with someone else? Like, isn't it a bit like awkward, or I don't know.
For most people, it's really hard and awkward the first couple times. For most people. What I've seen work really well is, number one, knowing yourself and taking time to be present with the moment instead of running away from it. So let's say you and I are dating, and I say, okay, honey, you go out on this other date tonight. And I'm going to trust you to do it. Like, you go have fun. I'm okay with you having any physical intimacy except for sex. Anything else? Okay. And we'll define sex, whatever that means for us. And you go out on this date. And I'm now sitting at home and I'm freaking out. And I'm going to be thinking that instead of me being alone and going to a really dark place, I'm going to take some time to do some processing. Where am I at? What kind of really tough feelings are coming up? I'm going to take some time to journal. I'm going to get really present with what's going on for me and what I need and what my fears are. I'm going to just write it all out. And then I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to go take myself out on a date. Maybe not with somebody else, but myself. I'm just going to go see a movie that I've been wanting to see. I'm going to go to a spa and get a foot rub. I'm going to do something for me so that I'm not sitting at home alone churning on all this stuff. Okay? And then when you come home, I'm going to try to hold space to hear whatever it was that happened for you. And there are a couple different things I encourage people to do. One is, before you go out, make really clear agreements. So I'd say, here's our physical limit. But maybe also, please just don't go to this one restaurant because that's our special place. And would you also send me a text message when you are there at the restaurant, and a text message before you come home so I know you're on your way, right? Like, all these different, we could make it whatever agreements we want. And we make them ahead of time. And then we are going to have some sort of communication tool. So here's what, this is I can go on for like 3 hours. I'm going to try to make this fast. Usually when people go out, they come home with two different options. One is either the don't ask, don't tell. So you went on a date and you're not going to tell me anything, and I don't even want to know you went on a date. Or the second one is the fire hose method, where you went on a date, you come home, and you're going to tell me everything. You tell me about all the wonderful emotional things you got from this person, all the wonderful physical things you got from this person. You just tell it to me all, even if I'm not ready to hear it. And that can be too much. So the thing that I created is called Inquire Within. So you come home from your date, and me, the person who sat at home, I'm going to ask you what I want to know that I'm ready to emotionally handle. So I'd say, how'd your date go? And you'd just say, good. I'd say, okay. What'd you do? And you'd just say, oh, we went to dinner and then went back to his place and we watched a movie and cuddled. And I'd say, okay, that's all I want to know tonight. That's all I can handle? Great. I'll ask you more questions when I'm ready. And I could ask at any point in time. Or I might say, did you guys fool around? And you'd say, whatever the answer was. You'd say, yes, we did. I'd say, how far did you go? Like, I get to lead that. And you answer honestly, because that's our commitment to each other. But we set that up ahead of time. Does that make sense? So the long answer was that. The short answer is, it's hard. But making agreements ahead of time and learning how to communicate together will really help with that. And it gets way easier over time. Like, a year after you've started doing this, you can just be like, I'm going on a date. Sweet, have fun. See ya. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, thanks for this presentation. You look beautiful.
Thanks, babe.
Could you tell me about compersion and how that plays into all of this?
We're all about definitions and new words tonight. Has anyone ever heard of the word compersion? Yeah. Compersion's a really cool word. Has anybody heard of the word schadenfreude? Schadenfreude is pleasure in someone else's pain. And, you know, it's like when you see somebody get hurt on TV and it's kind of funny and you laugh. That's Schadenfreude. Some people say that compersion is the opposite of Schadenfreude. So that compersion is the idea that you can take pleasure or joy in your partner experience joy. So I'm going to go back to, so let's say man goes on a date and back, and he has just had the most wonderful day ever, and he's glowing, and he just is just like this, something touched his heart. Something touched his heart, and it's really, he's just alive. And I can see that, and I can be so touched and so happy for his happiness that I get to be in that space with him and just be like, wow, I'm happy for you. Can I get excited for you? Oh my God, that's so cool. That's compersion. Yeah. And it's a beautiful emotion when it happens. And it's a hard emotion to practice to get to.
Yeah, because there will be like yeah, but you have to get past jealousy completely.
Oh yeah, you have to get past jealousy. You have but the compersion is usually reserved for is a term usually reserved for these open relationships. Compersion can happen at any point in time. Let's say you both are career people and you're in a monogamous committed marriage, and your partner gets this promotion at work that you both have been trying for, and you didn't get it. You can still have compersion for them. You can still be excited for them without thinking they're total, you know? You can still be happy in their success, in their joy.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I know a lot of single people, and to me it just feels like, so most of the world is monogamous, and the single people I know are not able to meet singles. And how do you even, then there is, I'm just thinking about, and then there is the polyamorous side of things and people with multiple partners. So how's that possible that there are so many people not able to meet people, and then there is people having multiple partners?
The internet? What? Curiosity, community. You know, I feel like just watching the patterns on my clients, single people want to meet single people most of the time. And so they're going to places where there are single people who are also looking to meet single people with this goal or this intention of hooking up or finding your mate, right? So there's all that like, go out and find the one, right? And that's a lot of pressure. And a lot of times I find that single people who are looking for another single person, in many cultures, the way to do so is through going to a bar. Going to a place where there's just more of a superficial level of connection. Whereas what I see in a lot of communities around like ethical non-monogamy, especially polyamory, it's people gathering to share connection and community and values. I have 2 little ones too. You're very flexible. They're going to these places, and there's usually a requirement of sobriety. There's oftentimes no drugs, no alcohol allowed. So you have to be you, and you have to be present, and you can't wake up the next morning and say, oh, I did it because I was drunk. It was real. You were there. And that builds a very different type of relationship. That happens a lot with church groups. You'll see the singles church groups will go out and try to have a shared experience to create that nice date, right? That new, exciting, challenging date where people are together building community, doing something together that's going to go below the surface of the conversation. Did that sort of help? Okay.
I was just curious, yeah. I guess I have one more question.
Oh, yeah.
And again, I think it just depends on the rules that people have. But if the rules haven't been defined, let's say, in open relationships, is it important or better to tell the person before you interact with another person or after?
Before. But it depends on your agreement.
Yeah, but if there is no clear agreement in this area, because it's new, it's still forming.
Right. I highly recommend making, so my book is called Relationship Agreements. I am pro making agreements that are a living document, that you just get all the assumptions out on the table. You just say whatever you're looking for, and you can do this in your first week of building a relationship even. Just say, this is what we want, and try to get it all out there. And as you hit bumps, you say, oh, okay, well, this is what I'd like to do going forward. This is what I wish we had done. Can we do it this way next time? Get as many agreements out there, and know that these agreements are agile. You are going to be a different person in 6 months than you are today, and so is your partner, and so is your relationship. So letting it be dynamic and saying, you know what, we made this agreement over here, but I think it's time to change. What do you think? I no longer need you to be home by midnight after your dates. I'm okay with you spending the night. Like, I trust you. It's okay. Just sleep. Come home in the morning. So it changes. Holding space for it to change. But before is usually safer in general. There are people who really their relationship is absolutely fine doing it after. But I always say that, you know, saying things before when you can will help navigate some potentially big disasters. You know, and then it's going to come down to what is the thing you're telling before? Is it you can make out with somebody? Or is it you're only going to call me before if you're going to sleep with them, right? Like, where's the line do you tell before or after?
By nature. I've had 2 husbands who are monogamous by nature, which is why I'm no longer married. But when my husband served in, we were both reserve soldiers, and he got called up and did 6 months in Bosnia. And my friends were horrified because I packed him up with condoms. And they couldn't understand why I would send him away or let him go away with condoms. And my reasoning behind that was that he was going to be lonely. He was going to be away from home. It was an experience that he had no experience of. Also, he was a lot older, and I knew that he would be a father figure for younger girls. And that in that situation, in that relationship, relationships can develop, not intentionally, but when you're not getting that support and that love because you're away, then these environments are very prevalent, and that can often happen. And the same thing, I said to him, if I want to know, I'll ask. And I don't believe that he did, and I was monogamous for the whole time that he was away because I knew that he didn't need to be worrying about me, whether he could trust me. But I gave him permission that if that's what happened, I don't believe 1 minute that he would go looking for it. But I know the type of person that he is, and I know that that could have easily have developed. And I didn't want him to feel guilty about that when he already had this isolation, all this other stuff going on. I never felt jealous. I never asked because I actually don't believe anything happened. If he had come home and told me, it wouldn't have bothered me. Because I know that the circumstances he was in were very different than the circumstances back at home and required a different set of rules. So
that's
just
beautiful.
To share that.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Wow. I know. All right. On that note, any other questions? This is a beautiful way to wrap up. My name is Ari Kardos. My email is here. I'm around for another week. If anybody wants to grab coffee and chat about your relationship or lack thereof, or how to get what you want in love, please let me know. And I do all my coaching on the phone. So we can be anywhere in the world. You can be in Bali. I can be in the States. You can be moving on to Africa, wherever you're going. I can be there on the phone with you. So please reach out and let me know how I can support you at any point in time in the future. And thank you all so much for coming out today. I appreciate it.
I just want to give you a hug. I love you. That was awesome. Thanks. I've never heard, because normally most of my talks are at school, so we can't really have talks like this. But that was awesome, and I think you worded it all really well. So everybody give her another hand.